slogan here. This is just a fun video. Many people do things in January, and I thought, why not have Jazzuary? Hey, what a good idea.
Are you aware of the music known as jazz? Are you aware of jazz music, the movement of jazz?
Why do you keep going on about jazz for?
Because it's the most important art form in the 20th century.
The Jazz Club, bringing you all that's best in the world of jazz. Nice.
For people like myself who are a musician involved in playing jazz, spread the love of jazz. So I thought it would be fun to just randomly, I've selected a selection from my record collection. Of course, if you're a streamer, you can listen to these on whichever digital streaming platform you use. But if you want to own the vinyl, you may want to treat yourself to some of those as well. So in a random order, I just went through my record collection and I picked a few albums out that might be a good recommendation to start Jazzuary. Or should we say forever jazz? So that then you explore some music that you've never heard before. So I've just put them in an order, starting with what I would feel maybe is the most accessible if you're unfamiliar with a lot of jazz music. Jazz is a big word, just like saying rock or pop, isn't it? So I'm just going to point a few directions, and some of you will find some of these albums really interesting, hopefully. So the first one, Connick Jr. Some of you may know Connick Jr. really polymath, really, actor, but Harry's very talented. This is an amazing album, and he wrote these songs at such a young age. The band is brilliant. So if you took certain singers who I believe are maybe not that apt at singing jazz in popular culture, well, maybe give this a try and see what you think, because this is a musician steamed in jazz and a great jazz pianist himself. So, first recommendation, Connick Jr. Next, Keith Jarrett, one of my favourite piano players, and this is called The Melody at Night with You. It was a gift he did for his wife. He'd had what's called chronic fatigue syndrome. Some people used to use the awful phrase yuppie flu. He'd not played piano for a year or two. This was a little gift wrapped up in DAT tapes, a digital recording format, and he gave that to his wife. This is beautiful music. They're very, very accessible, I would suggest, but also very complicated. If you're a pianist, you know how hard it is to play this simply. So that's Keith Jarrett's The Melody at Night with You. Now for one of the perennial classics, one of the biggest selling jazz albums of all time, Miles Davis, The Kind of Blue. What more can be said? Beautiful album, got an amazing band, the piano player Bill Evans, which I'm going to mention next as well. I've got 4 copies of this, always looking for the ultimate pressing. Anyway, yeah, Kind of Blue, a must listen, a beautiful album. Miles wanted to slow down what we call the chord changes, the complexity of the chords moving from one to the other, so that the musician could express themselves. Beautiful album, Kind of Blue. Next, Bill Evans Trio, Sunday at the Village Vanguard, one of the definitive jazz piano albums, absolutely stunning. Sadly, the bass player, Scott LaFaro, died only a short time after this. It was devastating for Bill, but thankfully we have this amazing recording. Something from the record label ECM, As Falls Wichita, So Falls Wichita Falls. Or as my friend used to say, As Falls Wichita, So Falls Wichita, Wichita, So Falls Wichita, As Falls Wichita Falls. Pat Metheny, looking rather smooth on the back there. Great album. If you like synthesizers as well, I'm interested in something a little bit different. This is a beautiful album, well worth playing. It also has a tribute to Bill Evans called September 15th, which they recorded on there. Brilliant album. That's on ECM, which is an interesting jazz record label to investigate as well. Another classic, Herbie Hancock, Maiden Voyage. Just a brilliant, brilliant album. Well worth your time. Some great, great tunes on it. Maiden Voyage is such a fabulous tune. Nip through a few more. Dexter Gordon, Our Man in Paris. Yeah, it just got some great tunes on it. And it's got Bud Powell, a great piano player that I admire. If you've not heard that, worth investigating. Another one of the famous jazz albums. I've picked some of these on purpose because you might be new to some of these albums. Timeout with Dave Brubeck, where Dave, the famous one on there is Take 5, which explores playing in odd meters, playing in odd time signatures. So not always playing in a 4-time or a 3-time, but exploring different kind of meters. Well worth investigating. Couple more classics. Blue Train, John Coltrane, wonderful tunes. Yeah, just what more can be said. Smooth, well worth investigating. Cannonball Adderley, saxophone player. It's a great album. Miles Davis, the trumpet player's on this. He wasn't a sign man lots and lots of times, so this is a beautiful album. This only came out last year. Their first album was called Mood Swing, which was a very important album for a lot of musicians around my generation, I would suggest. These musicians are great players. So we've got Joshua Redman. His albums are great as well, worth investigating. Brad Meldau, I'll mention a little bit later, the great American pianist. Christian McBride, a fabulous bass player, and a fabulous drummer called Brian Blade. All round, that is just a great album, well worth some of your time. And also the other album that they did, took them about 20 years apart, I think, to do this follow-up. The other album they did called Mood Swing. Pick some of these because these are my favourite. Art Pepper meets the rhythm section. Great swinging jazz album. This is a very favourite of mine. I just think this is just fabulous. This is Sonny Rollins, who's still alive. Yeah. This is recorded live at the famous jazz club called the Village Vanguard. Finishing with a couple of my all-time favourite. Keith Jarrett, Standards Volume 1 and 2. This is where Jarrett recorded these standards in 1983. And we got two versions. In fact, we've got another album as well out of those sessions. A very fruitful time for Keith Jarrett. So these are playing standards, old show tunes. These two albums are absolutely stunning. And I'm going to finish with something a little different by the jazz pianist Brad Meldau. I think Brad, if I'm not mistaken, won a Grammy for this. And this is called Finding Gabriel. He's playing a lot of synthesizers. He's got a lot of great musicians in the band. If you haven't heard that, that's something very different from the ones I've recommended. So there you go. There's a few of my recommendations for Jazzuary.
Are you aware of the music known as jazz? Are you aware of jazz music, the movement of jazz? Jazz. Are you aware of jazz music, the movement of jazz?
But maybe these are important times to point towards the way we are as human beings and the way we inhabit the planet. Anyway, thanks for watching.